offer deposit receipt. When you receive an offer on a property you've listed, the first impulse normally is to call the seller and say, hey, we've got good news. And he's got good news for you too. He's going to ask you, how much is it? Now, I know there's different schools of thought on this. Don't call him yourself. Have somebody else call him, the secretary. Tell him that you're out, that you're coming in. You know there's an offer to meet with him. If you're doing that and you like that method, fine. Keep on doing it. But I feel that there's nobody that knows the emotions and the feelings of that seller better. He hired me to do a job, and I'm going to be the one to call him. And I am not going to divulge the price or terms or anything at all over the telephone. There's no way he can get me to do that. If he's very persistent on the price or terms or something, what I would do, if I call and say, Mr. Jones, I've just had information come in that there's an offer arriving at the property. I was calling to see if you would be available, you and the wife, say at 6 o'clock or say 6:30 be better. If he says, how much is it, or is it a good offer, is probably going to be one of his responses. You can see with the wording I just gave you, you said, I understand there's an offer coming in. It doesn't mean that you've already looked at it. Now, if you have it laying there on your desk, you can go ahead and say that. If he's very persistent and say, find out what it is, and then call me. What you do is you take your pen and on the mouthpiece of the phone, you start tapping it and you say, I think we have a bad connection. I'll see you at 6:30. There's no way he's going to get that price or terms over the telephone. Now, he hired me to do a job, and by gosh, now I'm going to do it. The natural question for the seller to ask is, what is the price, or what price did they offer, or is it a good offer? If you're asked these or similar questions, your answer should be, Mr. Seller, I have just received the offer and have not yet analyzed it. I was just calling to make sure you would be available. Will 6:30 be good, or say 7 be better, to meet with you? And make sure when you present the offer that all parties are present whose signatures are necessary. This thing of coming back and giving 3 presentations on the deposit receipt with people scattered all over town, I don't go for. If the offer is reasonable, now I've seen agents in a good market, you know, they get a listing and they start coming up on the table with their elbows and they say, I'm not cooperating on this listing. Folks, that's not what the seller hired us for. He hired us to represent him, and if you'll read your code of ethics, it says that we're supposed to function in the best interest of all parties concerned. Buyers, sellers, and I think that means us too, agents. My feeling is that if you were the real estate salesman that spent your time, your gas, your efforts, and God only knows you might have spent 4 days or 5 days with these people traveling around looking at properties, and if you were good enough to bring me an offer on my property, I'm going to present it, and if it's a reasonable offer, I want to get it accepted exactly as it is. Exactly as it is, without any counter offer at all. I've seen transactions blow up, believe this or not, over a cotton-picking green trash can. And it was because of the agent. Isn't that silly? That's ridiculous. Are we representing clients in a situation like that? If the offer is reasonable, your goal should be to get the offer accepted as is, with no counteroffer, if at all possible. If the property's been on the market for 3 or 4 months, if you're within $500, I think go ahead and get it accepted, if you can. Don't dilly-dally around. I think it's a convenience to that seller to make a $500 concession just to know he's got a qualified client, just to know he's got a good substantial deposit on the property, just to know that his house is sold in an escrow and that him and his family can start making plans to move. I think that's worth at least $500. Anytime, some proper procedure for presenting an offer. Number 1, when the offer comes in, analyze the offer carefully and in detail with the selling agent. Be sure to get the selling agent's card and phone number. Analyzing this, I've had people bring to me an offer on a property that I had listed, and I would read it through. You know, they would want to come in and drop it off and take off. I don't go for that. I want you to sit down and let me analyze it in case I have some question about it before you go. In reviewing offers, in situations like this, I'd read through and I'd say, who's paying for the appraisal? You don't have it in here. And this is a true story. The other agent said, well, I guess my buyer is. Let me write it in. And the termite report was the same thing. Who's paying for the termite report? She says, I guess my buyer is. Let me write it in. Is this representing people? This is your competition. The next time you ever get down in the dumps and you think that the world is too competitive in real estate, just sit back and relax at your next multiple listing meeting and just look around you. Do it right now. Isn't it encouraging? I highly recommend when you bring an offer in on a property, up there we call it a green sheet or a buyer's profile sheet, at least a little mini qualifying sheet showing where the guy works, how much he makes, what bills he pays. I highly recommend that you do that ever before you go show a property. Also, prepare a seller's worksheet before you go over. If it's a low offer, you may even want to work up 2 or 3 showing different types of financing at that same price or even at a higher price to show him how he comes out on different financing. There may be an offer that the offers come in, it may be $500 or $1,000 less than what he's asking, but he may net more selling it at the lower price than at a higher price with different types of financing. In that case, you may want to work it up different ways. If you're new in the business, consult the office manager for his review of the offer. Call and make an appointment with the sellers and make sure all parties are present. When you get there, seat the sellers so that you're not in competition with the TV or children, exactly as we had shown here in seating them for the listing appointment. Be sure all necessary parties are present. Tell the sellers about the buyers to begin with. Say it's a young couple, they're just getting started in life, and they really like this home. However, they've offered $4,000 less, but sell them on the people first. They've got these 2 darling little children, just jewels of kids, monsters. Tell them about the employment the guy has. Sell them on your clients first, or on the buyers. Discuss the deposit receipt. Cover all the terms first, and leave the price last. Cover the price last. If the offer's low and you were to divulge the price first, let's say for an example, he's asking $65 and you brought in an offer at $60. And then you say, well, the offer's for $60,000 and they want you to throw in the carpets and drapes. You mean now they want my carpets and drapes after they want to steal my house? You know, you may have a little problem like that. Get him sold on the miscellaneous items first. Say, Mr. Jones, reviewing the offer, how would it be if we left the carpets and drapes? Well, yeah, that's okay. And then get to the price last. Cover possession, the miscellaneous personal items and so forth, ever before you discuss price. Present the seller's net sheet and show him how he comes out. Your closing question can be, and you have to be careful with this, now, Mr. Seller, this is the approximate amount of dollars that you will net. And then whatever that figure might be, say $20,218. Particularly if it's a low offer, don't say, that sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds like then that you're siding with the offer, particularly if it's low. Show him how he comes out, and your dialogue should be like this. How does that sound? How does that sound? Now, he may jump and fight and scratch and cry all he wants. But after it's all over, just ask him again. How does that sound? I couldn't interpret what you were trying to tell me. You're really excited, I can tell. Close the sale. Close the sale. I know this happens sometimes. I had an agent call me one time and say, I got your offer accepted. Now that makes you feel pretty good, particularly when you entrusted your offer in the hands of another salesman to go present the offer to the sellers. I got the offer back, and I looked at it, and here's this counter offer about the length of the size of a page of dictionary. And in there it says that the title company had to be different, the possession date was different by 2 days, just little Mickey Mouse stuff. On and on and on again. You see, one word changed on that agreement. What does it do? It nullifies it, right. So now I had to go back and sell the whole thing all over to my buyer again. It wasn't that big of a problem, but it could have been in that situation. If you work hard enough to get these things together like that, I sure hate to see other salespeople cause problems to keep them apart, and that happens. Close the sale. When you make out your seller's net sheet, I recommend that you use this NCR paper. It says no carbon required. Make up your seller's net sheet in duplicate copies. Have the sellers sign the net sheet that they are acknowledging the approximate amount of dollars that they're going to net from the sale of the property. They're acknowledging that. And then you keep a copy, by all means, in your property profile of that property. You keep a copy. Because I had listed a property for a military couple in Sacramento. Really nice couple when I first met them. But you have them like that too? 30 days later, I had a 90-day listing on it. They had to go ahead and get moved. We didn't get it sold. So an offer came in on it a couple weeks later after they had gotten back east. The offer came in, and I notified them. I called them by phone. I said, I'm dropping a copy of it in the mail to you, and this is what it is. And I got telephone confirmation because it was real close over the phone. Offer was real good. And we got telephone confirmation, got a telegram back that they accepted it as described on the telephone. And we opened escrow. And I had filled out the seller's net sheet. I said, this is how much I figure you're going to net. So I sent all this to them, registered mail, and I recommend highly you send it registered mail, get a receipt back on these things that you send. Or you can put it on the airplane. We got the escrow open, we closed the escrow, and then I got a telephone call a couple days later after the seller had received their check and after I had got my commission check. I got this call from the husband. Now, I found out later that the wife could infuriate him, just destroy the guy to get him infuriated himself. He called and he says, and he was really upset. He says, Roger Butcher, he says, we're going to sue you for commission. Now, you know, anything you don't need, it's that, all right? I said, obviously you're upset. Could you please explain it to me? He says, yes, you told us we were going to net about $2,000 more out of our house than we have received, and we're going to sue you for commission. I says, I don't blame you. If I did something like that, you deserve to. Let me put you on hold for just a moment while I check my file. I got out my file. I had my copy of the seller's worksheet in there that he had signed, showing how much he was going to get. I came back on the phone, and I said, and his name was Bob. I said, Bob, could you please tell me how much I told you you were going to net? And he said, this is the amount right here. I said, that's right. In fact, you've netted about $200 more than what I told you. I said, do you remember a seller's worksheet dated this when you received the offer? And I asked you to make sure you pressed hard and send back one copy to me. I said, would you like the name of my attorney, or would you prefer that I just send you a copy of this? He says, Raj, I guess it's my mistake. Why don't we just forget it? You see how these little things, you got to cover your tracks. You got to head off a lot of these problems, and you can if you'll do it before they ever come up. And remember, when presenting an offer, you're always selling all the time. Now here's some different dialogues or just some thoughts and ideas that you might be able to use in an actual presentation itself. You might remind the seller that normally the first offer is always the best offer. If you get an offer that's a little bit lower than what you were hoping for, you might say something like this to the seller. Ask him, would you buy the house for this price of this offer in hopes of turning around and selling it for the price that you're wanting? Would you buy the house for the price of this offer in hopes of turning around and selling it for the price you're wanting to sell? And you can actually use those figures in there. When they say we really wanted to net X number of dollars, you know, if your loan balance were X number of dollars less, we could do that. But that darn loan balance is too high, isn't it? Here's another dialogue. You know, when I came over here today, I was sure that one of the two parties would buy this property. And pause. What's going to go through their mind? You mean that maybe there's another offer? There's another buyer? These people are willing to buy the property for, and you name that amount, and you are saying no. You want to buy it for your amount. And again, pause. Now here's another one that you might use. I sure hate to blow the whole transaction just for $1,000, just for $500, whatever it might be. It would be nice to have this out of the way, wouldn't it? Or it would be nice to get moved in, say, 30 days, wouldn't it? Remember, people, that in listing, in showing property, in presenting an offer, control is the name of the game. Now, he can be jumping up and down on the front door steps when I get there, but there's no way he's getting that out of my briefcase until I choose to take it out. Some of the problems you're having out there, if you'll start doing what I've tried to teach in these 2 days, I guarantee you at least 80% of your problems are going to dissolve because they're going to have more confidence in you as an individual. I really feel that way. If you're in an area where I'm the selling agent and you're the listing agent, who knows that client better? You do. Sure. I've seen the agent representing the buyers just kind of bull in and say, I know my rights and I'm going to present the offer. He may kill himself doing it or offend your sellers. See, my feeling is I want to help you understand that offer all you can. I may be sitting next to you when you present it in case you or the sellers have a question. However, I'm going to let you present the offer. I'm not going to pull this Mickey Mouse stuff about you're not going to see it until I'm right in front of your seller. I'm going to say, would you like to meet me at the office that we can review it before we go over? Or would you like to meet me in front of the homes that we can sit down and review it together, that you understand everything there is before we go in? Extend that courtesy, people. Extend that courtesy to each other, one another, as a professional salesman in a profession of real estate. If there's more than one offer on the property, what I recommend you do is that you go in with one agent at a time. Let's say if we have 5 offers on the property at one time. And why do you have 5 offers? Because it wasn't listed right to begin with. It was listed too low. It's easy to get listings if you'll use some of these formulas. And then what you do, if I'm the listings agent, what I would do is all 5 salespeople with their offer meet me at the property at 8 o'clock. We all sit down in the living room, and then I take you one at a time, and you go with me in, and we sit in the kitchen in confidence and review your offer. And then we cover it up. You go back in and sit down, I bring in the next person, and then it's the seller's decision. And I may even want to go back in with him and counsel him privately. That's how I would handle multiple offers. What I've done is I have not stayed to my time frame. I've done the seminar the way I wanted to do it, not because Bulova wanted to do it. I wanted to give you more in this program than you ever expected to get, and I hope I've tried to do that. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to wind up this evening by telling you what is the last and perhaps the most important step of all, and that's what we call desire. When we talk about desire, we start talking about the equalizer. We talk about the thing that makes all men and all women equal if we've just got enough of it. You can give me a person with just average ability, but who has an enormous amount of desire, and I'll give you back a winner every single time. You know, when we talk about desire, I always think about the story told by the great J.C. Penney, who said, you show me a man without desire, and I'll show you a stock clerk. But you show me a stock clerk with desire, and I'll show you a man that will make history. You know, our insurance friends tell us, and I'm certain that they're right, out of 100 young men at age 25, out of those that are still living at age 65, only 5 of them have made it financially. You know, this is tragic. This is America. This is a land of opportunity. This is a land where opportunities are so unique that I read just a while back that within the next 10 years, more millionaires will be created than have ever existed in the history of the world. You know, when we talk about desire, we also need to talk about intelligent ignorance. Intelligent ignorance is this rare quality that we find in these individuals who do not know what cannot be done. And because they do not know what cannot be done, they go out and do it. You know, it's kind of like the story about the bumblebee. You know, the bumblebee cannot fly. We all know that. His body is too heavy. His wings are too light, and aerodynamically, it's impossible for him to fly. But the bumblebee doesn't know that, does he? The bumblebee flies. You know, when we take counsel of our fears, there's a lot of bad things that can happen. But if we just investigate and understand so much of what lies within us, then there's no place we cannot go. You see, if you'll just help enough other people to get what they want, you'll never have to worry about what you want. When you start talking and acting and thinking as we're doing here this evening, there are some of your friends that might think that you're different. Of course, we all know they'll be right. You'll be so different that you'll be one of those 5 out of 100 who gets what he wants. There will be those that will even criticize you for adopting this attitude. But need I remind you that, to the best of my knowledge, throughout the history of mankind, no one has ever erected a statue to a critic. So apparently they're not held in such high esteem. Let me remind you that the little world laughed, but the big world was gathered around when Benjamin Franklin discovered electricity. The little world laughed, but the big world was gathered around when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. The little world might laugh at you as you begin your journey, but I can assure you that the big world will be at the finish line cheering you across. Folks, it's not what you get by reaching your destination. That's the important thing. It's what you become by reaching that destination. The most exciting thing of all, as I close here this evening, is simply this: that regardless of what might have happened to you up until now, today is the very first day for the rest of your life. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.